are joining this after it's already aired, you're doing the replay, I'm going to link down at the bottom what the descriptions are, the chapters, if you will, of the talking points that I'm going to be having. So you can go straight to that, which I think will make it a lot easier because I know you don't always want to hear me go through the comments. But hello, everybody. Hey there, Alice. Let's see if we have some more folks coming in. While you're coming in, make sure you're pressing that like button as well. I see a lot of you have already done that. That's always really important to make sure that we're getting the word out about how neat these are. So we can hang out a little bit together. And as Alice has mentioned, talk about diamonds potentially being out of the lounge. So we'll go through some of those, I'd say, viral Facebook posts we're going to cover today to chat through what my thoughts are on them, take a realistic view to it, and see how they're going. Hey, Tony. Hey, Patches. And before I think about it, I've got one quick question that came in before the channel started for somebody that had to drop, but wants to know the best time to pay your bill when you are going on a cruise ship. The first thing that I'll say to this is if you can put a debit card or credit card on file, that is always the preferable way to go. And so if you're able to do that, they're going to place a hold on a Royal Caribbean ship of about $100 on that account. So that's going to take the money out of your checking account if it's a debit card, and then it's going to add it as a processing fee to a credit card. But I would say if you are doing that, you're not going to have to worry about when you're settling your bill. It's automatically going to happen when you spend money. The other side to that is going to be if you want to pay cash, which there's a lot of people that do. The first thing I would tell you is pay your gratuities in advance. You can call in and do that, so it's already paid for. But when you want to settle with cash, you're going to want to do that the night before. You can do it first thing in the morning that you're getting off the ship, but I would say as soon as you know you're not buying anything else and all of your onboard gratuities, if you haven't paid those, have hit, go ahead and settle your bill. That could be lunchtime the day before. The reason I say do it in advance is because those lines will get very long with everybody trying to settle their account at the same exact time. And you don't want to be in that line because you know better. So make sure you're trying to do that. I would say at lunchtime the day before you are getting off the cruise ship. All right, let's see who else has joined us. Michael, welcome. Even here, I just came back. So this is a later live for me. I'm normally not doing them this late in the evening, but I was in Port Canaveral, and so I had to get home. So I couldn't be here in time to do a 3 or 4 o'clock live with everybody. So I got home about 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and so I pushed this to 7. And I think that hopefully it'll work out well and a lot of you are able to join. But it is, I was surprised. The reason I went there, it's cooler here as well today. So excited for that. Hey there, Gail. Welcome from, it's raining. That's never any good. Thomas, I will see you when you get here then. If you're coming into Miami, I will see you here. Sarah, thank you for joining. And Tom from North Carolina. My funniest story I have to say here, Tom, is when I moved up to Boston, I tell everybody I was from North Carolina. They'd be like, oh, I love Asheville. That's just an amazing place. And I'm like 5 or 6 hours from Asheville, like not close. So I started telling people I'm from Eastern North Carolina, and they still would respond with, oh, I love Asheville, which Asheville at North Carolina is a beautiful spot. But it's kind of like somebody saying they're from Boston and be like, oh my goodness, I love New York. Like they're completely different. And so I tried to narrow it down for him, but we just didn't get there. Hey, Brett from Arizona. I've got Jen coming in from Las Vegas. Greg, good meeting you as well. I was excited to, on an MSC cruise, which we'll talk about a little bit here, meet a lot of people that watch the channel as well. So great meeting you as well, Greg. Hey, Darren. So you're asking about Florida discounts for residents. So resident discounts, and I am not a travel agent. So to really get the scoop on this, talk to a travel agent. But a resident discount does not happen very often. You'll see them come through every now and again. And I think that there's a chart that a travel agent can provide you on when those are happening, when they're going on. It's normally not a lot, I would say. I don't think that I necessarily get one a lot of the times. And last minute deals do not happen anymore because the ships are filling up to capacity. So last minute is either extremely expensive or the ship is just completely full and you're not going to make it on it regardless. Now we're talking about Eastern North Carolina here. If you want to talk about UNC Dub, that is definitely out there. But I love Wilmington, though. That's where my aunt lives, and I get to visit pretty often. Hey, Pedro, Trina, and Alex. Glad that you can make your first chat. Now, I know this time is a little bit later, and so I want to do a quick poll just to see how you all are feeling about a later live session. So, I normally try to do them on the weekends later in the afternoon, like 3, 4 o'clock, but I'm curious, what do you think of me moving this to a midweek? So let me put that in a poll question real quick. Do you prefer a midweek or weekend live stream? I'll give you a couple of options here. Midweek is probably going to be like Monday or Tuesday if I had to guess. Or weekend. And the reason I'm curious on this is, I want to know what works well for you all, first of all. So that's my Google Analytics, not Google, I guess it is Google Analytics. YouTube Analytics tells me that this should be a really good time. But with my cruising schedule being on the weekends, I started doing these live streams on the weekend from the ship. And the internet on the ship is not good enough to support a live stream. And so it really makes me hesitant to do it that way. And I'm finding that I want to, this is my personal journey of having a YouTube channel. I want to actually enjoy the cruise ship a little bit more. So I'm trying to do more of the YouTubing at home so that when I'm on the ship, I can focus in on the ship, getting that experience, seeing what's out there so I can come and report back to you all. But if I'm sitting in my cabin the entire time making YouTube videos, I'm missing out on that experience. And that's what I'm trying to solve for a little bit. So let me know in the poll questions what you think of which one you like better there. Looks like so far we've got weekend coming in strong. Oh, I'm moving around the screen here some. Midweek got a couple of folks, but it looks like the weekend is definitely going to win with 23 votes coming in. 22 votes. Somebody unvoted. Oh, now you revoted. So I've made it, or I scripted a video. I scripted a lot of videos. On one of them was like what a YouTuber would want you to know, or what an aspiring YouTuber would want you to know. And one of the things is we can see when numbers change. So I can see when I gain subscribers, and every now and again, I can see when I lose a subscriber. Nobody tells you that you're going to have insight into seeing when you lose subscribers on the channel. Luckily, it doesn't happen too terribly often. It normally goes up more than it goes down, but it does happen from time to time. Finding Miriam, you're jumping ahead of me here. We'll definitely get into my thoughts on MSC a little bit later in this conversation. Don't want to ruin it just yet. Hey there, Java. Welcome. I'm getting all sorts of nicknames on this channel. I kind of like it. Wilmington to Tampa. Did you move because cruise ships were closer to Tampa as well? That's what I did. Pedro, I seem to get this question a lot. Am I doing the inaugural with Icon of the Seas? No. I have no desire to do the inaugural, the second cruise, the third cruise. I have no reason to want to go on the Icon of the Seas. I am not a big ship person whatsoever, and that ship just looks way too big for my liking. So I am not going to be on Icon of the Seas, especially not going on a ship that I'm not going to enjoy as much and pay a premium for that, a significant premium for that. So you're going to see me. I will do the Utopia a couple of months after it comes out because I got a good deal on it early on, and it's doing a weekend cruise. So fine, twist my arm. I'll do the Utopia, but I like the Oasis class better, and I think I'm going to like this Icon class. Hey, Brett, welcome. Later time works good. Lots of people busy during the day. Alice. And Gail, I'll try to balance a little bit of what works well for me, but I need or want you all to show up. I don't want to have, put on a live and nobody comes to it. I don't think lives are good after to watch it as a replay. If I see a live when I'm watching YouTube, I normally click out of it pretty quick. So that's why I'm trying to put chapters in afterwards to say, hey, here's where we actually talk about the meat and potatoes of this conversation for those who aren't actually in here. Patches, does that mean you were military based then? If you were in Goldsboro, not many people go there if they're not part of the military or something like that. You know, moving for a job that can pay your bills to go on more cruises, that's also not a bad idea. I mean, that's certainly one way to do it. And just hitting diamond status on Royals. So with that, that is a really great transition there, Jazz. So let's transition into our first topic of the evening. And let me pull up my notes here so that I don't miss these. And the first thing, before we get into diamonds being kicked out, I want to talk through one, I'll call it a non-change. It's a change, but it's a non-change that Royal made. They moved their final payment date for longer cruises, 15 nights or longer. So hopefully you all are doing a lot of those. That's more transatlantic, from 90 days to 120 days out. So you're going to have to let them know 120 days out that you're definitely going on that cruise, and you're not getting your money back without some kind of an insurance situation to it. So I don't think that this is too much of a big deal. I think most people that go in transatlantics will be fine with this. It is a very small population. But what does have me thinking about, and since I'm the weekend cruiser, I do a lot of short cruises. Short cruises have an even shorter final payment period, which I find really interesting. So now that they're moving this one out, and I get they do that because it's 15 nights. So if somebody backs out and they lose money for 15 nights, that's a big deal. But weekend cruisers are selling out a lot these days. So if somebody backs out and they can't resell that room, that's also a big deal for the weekend cruisers or shorter cruises. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some more shifts in final payment dates. But this one here, if you're on a sailing 15 nights and longer, first of all, I'm extremely jealous. Second of all, you just got to make sure you have cash a little bit earlier on. I feel like I'm a little bright in the screen. Let me see if I can turn down my lighting some for you all so that I'm not getting this wrong. I don't know if that changed anything, or maybe I'm just glowing a little bit, but I feel like that looks better. All right. So diamonds, let's get into diamonds. So the first thing, and I pulled together some receipts, if you will, on what all's kind of happened or come out of, and this is all Facebook information. This is nothing from the horse's mouth. Royal Caribbean has not come out and made a policy. They've not come out and said anything. But there's a few things that are floating around the internet that are going very much so viral today on different levels of access to the lounges. And so most of you know we've got a suite lounge / concierge lounge. It's still what's called that on a few ships, I believe. Suite, but it's really just a suite lounge these days. And you're going to have your now Crown Lounge, which used to be the Diamond Lounge. So what you see on the screen now is an access pass for certain Pinnacles to access the suite lounge. So a lot of you may know that Pinnacles, the highest tier of Royal Caribbean's Crown and Anchor Society, at 1,400 points in their program, have always been allowed to go into the suite lounge. With recent, I'd say the explosion of the Crown and Anchor Society, with so many people hitting tiers and different status levels, they started saying, okay, look, if there's more than 50 people, Pinnacles, on the sailing, you can't come into the lounge. We'll make a special place just for you. You can't come into the suite lounge. Now it looks like they've gone and done something a little bit different. And so they're now saying, hey, if you're a top cruiser on the sailing, even though we may have too many Pinnacles, we're still going to allow you to come into the suite lounge. The number that I was told this was from, and this again, nothing's confirmed, is 30 people. The top 30 in the group are allowed to get into the suite lounge. I find this a little bit interesting. There's a few things I find interesting to this new policy. The first one is going to be that it's gone from, okay, if we had 50 people, we're comfortable with you coming in. Now, we're only comfortable with 30 people coming in. So they've lowered the gearing ratio there on how many people can come into the lounge. The second thing that jumps out at a lot of people here is that the stateroom, that you can bring whoever you're sharing the stateroom with. So you may remember I went sailing with my mother a few weeks ago. Has it been? No, it's probably been longer than that now. A month ago, September. She was not permitted into the Pinnacle Lounge. Could I have sweet talked? Could I have made it happen? Yes. I'm not that much of a rule breaker or somebody who pushes the rules. And so I did not try to get her in there, but she is not permitted when she's sailing with me to go into the Suite Lounge. This new policy here, the reason I say it's interesting and that it jumps out at a lot of Pinnacles is that they're saying, yes, we're going to let the top 30 Pinnacles in. Oh, and by the way, if you have somebody who's not Pinnacle, they can come with you. They can have absolutely no status. We'll let them into the Suite Lounge as now a new perk of yours, which kind of ticks off probably those other 20 Pinnacles that, remaining 50 that didn't make it in, so that somebody who's never cruised on Royal Caribbean can now make it into the lounge. So that's going to rub people the wrong way. The people that actually get this perk will really like it because when you sail with people and you're accustomed to going to the lounges, I'll speak from my own experience. I like getting them into the lounges with me. I still like going to the lounges, but this is making it official that they can do that. But to do it, they had to kick some other people out. Now, this isn't necessarily a permanent change. It's just one that's been happening for this specific sailing. So they could just be testing the water, seeing how it goes. Not really sure how this is going to play out. But remember from the Crown and Anchor video, the changes that I made coming out, I think that what they're doing right here is already telling us how they can start providing a higher tier, whether that's 1,400 cruise points or not. And excuse me, I misspoke earlier. 700 cruise points is Pinnacle. I'm doubling up on it before I should. They could come out with a new level, which I predicted would be 1,400. And this might be one of the perks is that higher tier will continue to have access to the Suite Lounge. And by the way, you can bring the person you're cruising with. Most of the time, that's probably going to be a spouse that's also going to have status, but just one of those things to keep in mind. Going to the next picture here, and this one's, I would say, of lesser importance, but it still gives us a little bit of insight. So you all know that words are important to me. When I am reading something, words on that page matter, especially when it's coming from a very large corporation such as Royal Caribbean. So here's one that came out from the Crown Lounge. By the way, Willie, hello. He's the Crown Lounge concierge that this was posted on Facebook from. So hi, Willie. But I will say the thing that jumps out at me here, and it is in this first line, I can't highlight it, is 24/7 access to the Diamond Lounge. So it is letting a member know that they have access to the Diamond Lounge 24/7. So the new part here is they're not putting 24/7 on. They're now giving it a time that you can access the lounge. It's no longer just a blanket statement of you can access the lounge. It is you can now access the lounge 24/7. The reason that that is important is because we see on the next image here that in some cases, they may be limiting the amount of usage that diamonds can now go into the Crown Lounge. And so that's why that is important. So when we see a time being added somewhere, you can't just say you have access to the Crown Lounge now. You have to tell people if they have full access to it or they have partial access to it. And so in this case, this is coming from Lou, who I'm not sure that I know Lou is one of the concierges yet. But they're saying that each night from 5 to 8, the Crown Lounge is going to be reserved for Diamond Plus and Pinnacle Club members. So this is already one of those shifts, and it didn't take long now, did it? First, to start seeing Diamond members no longer permitted into the Diamond, what used to be the Diamond Lounge. As soon as that name shifted to Crown Lounge, they can now say, well, it's not really your lounge anymore. You don't have to be there. But it's, I find it interesting that they did between 5 p.m. and 8 that you can't go into the lounge. And I think that that's interesting because that's, the peak hours, but you can get drinks anywhere. And I would say on most ships, it's really only from 5 to 5:30. As soon as early seating starts for dinner, that lounge is decimated. Everybody leaves to go to the early seating. So I'm not sure why they didn't just block it for the first half instead of that entire section there. But they do leave it open to you for the rest of the period of time. You can still go in there in the morning when the concierge is there if you need them. That's going to be the time that you're going to need to talk to the concierge. You can get your coffees outside of this period of time. You can get your drinks elsewhere. So it's really interesting. This is on the Wonder of the Seas currently, and it's my understanding there may be a casino event also going on where they have a lot of Diamond, Diamond Plus, and Pinnacle members. So I don't know if this is something that is going to stay, if they are testing the waters here, if this is temporary. I don't know what it's going, but it's giving us a little bit of insight into what they could do, what they can do. I think they're personally testing the waters on a few sailings, and we'll see if this makes it out to be the new policy, the new normal, or if they're just going to start doing this based on every single is. Honestly, that's a pretty crap experience. If you're going to change the policy every cruise, and I just realized I took me off of it. That should have been, oh, I see what I did. Let me just go back to the main stage. So where was I going with that thought? Now I saw that my picture wasn't up there, and I saw that there was an issue. Let me come to the comments just to make sure everything is going well. Looks like it. All right. So I think they're testing the waters, seeing what they can get away with. But if they do this, depending on the cruise and how many people are on the cruise, I think that that's a crap experience, because as a guest, I never know what to expect until I show up to that cruise. There is no way to know how many Diamond members, how many Diamond Plus, or how many Pinnacle members are going to be on a sailing. So if every time you show up and it's a guessing game on how many benefits you're going to get or you're not going to get, that's just a really poor experience. Like, you kind of want to know when you book something, here's going to be that experience. So I really hope that it is not going to be ship by ship, sailing to sailing. Because if you cruise a lot, you definitely learn that depending on who the HD is, where the sailing's going from, who the captain is, there's certain policies that absolutely change. And that's a really big issue, I think, with having a fleet of their size. They've got to get more quality control so that we know what that experience is going to be when we get to the cruise ship. So if they need to rip the Band-Aid off and tell us, hey, Pinnacles can never get back into the Suite Lounge, or they need to tell the Diamonds that they need to move out, but don't have us in this limbo land where you just never know. Though I will say, if they keep it in the limbo land, I would welcome all of you to join me on weekend cruises, because we run about 3 to 12 Pinnacles every sailing, and there's maybe 100 to 200 Diamond Plus members. You know, people who cruise frequently don't tend to gravitate towards the weekend. So as much as I'm harping on this a little bit, it doesn't actually impact me that much if they go with the every other sailing or whenever they just kind of feel like it policy, because not that many high-end tiered folks come over to the weekend cruise. So take it how you will, but I think that, you know, most of us would just really appreciate knowing in advance what the situation is going to be. Let me come back over here to the comments. You know, one of these days, Andrew, I'm going to make a video on how I think Royal just doesn't want solos at all. I was chatting with somebody about this the other day, and the reason that I think this is because the cruise ships are filling up. And if they are filling up every single cruise well in advance, having a solo person paying 150% single supplement, if they're not paying double, even if they are paying double and not bringing in revenue of 2 different people, 2 extra bingo cards, 2 extra drinks that they could buy, they're losing revenue by having solos on the cruise. And so it does not surprise me if we continue to see shifts there. Hey, Anthony, my pleasure. It was great meeting you all. Thank you for coming over and saying hello. I truly enjoyed meeting you all, having conversations, getting to know you some, and hopefully I'll see you on another ship one of these days, maybe even another MSC ship. We did meet in the coffee bar. Good memory there. I honestly love meeting you all. It makes my cruise so much fun to meet you all. And I tell people this, and I told this to Anthony and his wife, you know, it's great for me to meet people in person, because it's easy to sit behind this computer screen, behind this monitor, and forget that there's people on the other side of this, that there's, I think I looked at the analytics, 50,000 unique viewers of the Weekend Cruiser. But all I normally see is this computer monitor. I normally see me recording, me doing everything. And it keeps it in perspective that there's people out there actually paying attention, that's listening, that's getting education on maybe their first cruise here. And it keeps me quite humble, actually, on, you know, really trying to get that information correct for you all and bringing out opinions. Jen, glad somebody else is with me on not checking out the icon. Special events on Allure for the first sailing. They might, Alex. I'm trying to think if I've done, I'm sure that I have done a first sailing on Mariner and Freedom when they came in, because I was already the weekend cruiser Freedom. I started weekend cruising back when Empress and Enchantment was doing it. I hope that they will. I don't know that they will. If you're part of the group cruise on November 3rd, we probably will. We might have our own little inauguration party on the Allure for her first weekend sailing. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be really curious to see how everybody feels about Icon. Some people are completely sold on the concept. They love it. The bigger, the better, the more to do. We'll see how they balance all this. Luckily, they still have other ships right now for us to choose from. Why do I think Utopia prices are as high as they are? Oh, in Hillsborough. Welcome, North Carolina. I think that they're really high because people have gotten fascinated with new ships. There is just something about a new ship that causes people to love the concept and to want to be there. I mean, you can see, especially inaugural on a new ship, like that is just a rite of passage, just to check the box. People want to do it. I don't personally understand it. If you're doing an inaugural sailing, number one, it's got a good chance of being canceled. If there's some kind of a mechanical issue, a situation of the ship, and they're not actually able to get it up to speed quick enough, they might cancel the first 2 or 3 sailings. You're also probably going to have a lot of bumps and hiccups as they learn how that ship operates with actual people on it. The good news, though, is they traditionally bring in really strong talent crew members to run those ships. So it's not their first rodeo, not their first cruise. So you normally wind up getting a really good crew to take it out, which helps offset that some. But that's the best I can come up with, is people are just infatuated with these new ships. And I'm over here going, can I go back to the old, smaller ships? That's where I want to be. Sid, glad you watched the chats too. Dina, you're taking advantage of a later live stream. Great to have you on. I'm definitely getting a few new people with this later time frame. It might work out good for us. Group Cruise 2024. So, Pedro, if you have not already joined the Facebook group, I think it's linked down below. There is a group for the Weekend Cruise. I think I call it the official group, the Weekend Cruiser official group, because I'm not a creative person. So join it. I've actually got a lot of questions coming out, and I asked some of these on the live last week on what you all are looking for your next group cruise. So if you're not a member of that group, make sure that you go to the Facebook link down below, request access to that page so you can start voting and telling me what you all want to do. I'm pretty flexible as long as it's a 3 or a 4-nighter. I did post the question on Saturday if everybody wanted to do a 3-night or 4-night, and 4-night was a really strong winner. So I'm going to try to, in very short order, start coming out with what is the 2024 group schedule be, especially for you all that like to plan in advance. We'll try to get some stuff up and running for you there. Java, that is outside of my cruise expertise, or my YouTube expertise, I should say. I did look at a virtual background just playing around before I started this, and I don't like the way that it does it. My gray hair, I don't know if there's a lot of gray-haired people that do virtual backgrounds. It can't see the gray for some reason. And so you'll see it like cuts off my hair or doesn't know where my head is. Virtual backgrounds and me don't get along very well. In the lounge, they give you food. That is, and a place to sit and a concierge. That's about it. And the food quality, for those of you that have been going to the lounge for a while, is not what it used to be. It'd be lamb chops or steak bites. These days, the best thing they got going for them is a little chocolate caramel ball that they make, and they give you a little bit of prosciutto and some melon, some cheeses. It's nothing high end anymore, but it's just a little bit of nosh, especially if you have a later seating for dinner that you can do. Pinnacle Plus could be it. I mean, I almost think that one of them might wind up being the Crown. You know, the top tier is called the Crown at that point. And then the Crown Lounge would go to them. Just me being, rip the Band-Aid off on it. But that might be a little bit extreme. It didn't take them long to dilute the benefits. And I think that we're going to continue to see a small dilution as the weeks and months go on, because I think that hopefully they paid attention to what Delta Airlines did and how much of an uprising that they had. They're going to try to make us feel like we haven't lost anything, or at least they need to do that. They need to make it such a slow progression that we forgot already what we've lost when they're taking more out. And I think it'll probably come in short order. But I think that the marketing team there is wise enough to know that ripping the Band-Aid off is not going to cut it in this situation, but there needs to be a gradual or a one-year plan on how they move us into lower tiers or less status with less benefits. I think the one thing they may be doing now is they're going to call everybody the same thing. You're still going to be called a Diamond member. You're just starting to see that Diamond member is now what the Diamond Plus used to be. That's my personal 2 thoughts about it. Adam, hopefully it's come back. My light over here was also flickering a little bit, and I saw my Wi-Fi got weak. So I might just not have a fantastic connection right now, or there could be like a power thing going on, but thank you for that. It could apply to the 1%ers on the cruise ship at least. A lot of these changes are the 1%, but I think the issue or the reason why people are wanting to see a change, not saying that I necessarily do, but acknowledging that something needs to give, is the 1% is now kind of the top 30%. I would say that, you don't have a 1% on Royal Caribbean anymore. You have a 30% that is getting those top tier benefits. It is a much larger number than it used to be. Glad to hear it hadn't changed over quite yet. I do see a lot of pictures where they have changed it over. Sam, going on your Virgin sailing, have a blast on it. I've got a few more videos on Virgin coming out this week, and then I'll be done with Virgin for a little while. And by the way, they are doing something unique. If you book direct with the cruise lines, I've got the affiliate link that they've provided me because I'm talking about their ships and saying, hey, it's actually a really good time if you want to go on it. And you book direct, make sure you use the affiliate link down below. But I always encourage you to use a travel agent. If you use a travel agent, I totally get it. But if you are just set on booking direct, use the link below would do me a huge favor. Yeah, we're starting to see a lot more of, if you don't have a ghost second passenger, you're going to see increased pricing, or there's going to be something out there, Sig. I don't get it. I haven't heard anything, Thomas, on Pinnacles going to Coastal Kitchen. That is on a ship-by-ship basis these days. So it depends on where you're at, how many Pinnacles you got. But I would not be surprised if we started to see that shift as the focus goes to new cruisers who are spending a good chunk of money on suites and giving them a real priority kind of feeling. So I think more will come. I even saw there's somebody posted online, a friend of mine, a suite going for $100,000. $100,000 for a 7-night cruise. You can't make this stuff up. They want to make sure that that person is getting everything they can. The emphasis has been removed from loyal customers because we're not necessarily, I hate to say it, driving revenue all the time. I don't go on the ship and I don't buy things like a first-time cruiser does. I just don't. And so I think the cruise line is really trying to prioritize first-time cruisers, getting those suites, and they're finding there's a good supply of first-time cruisers they can get. That's just where the reality is. Tesla, oh, we got somebody who's looking forward to Icon. You're going to have to let me know how it goes. I will not be there, but I'm very anxious to hear. And I do hope everybody that goes on Icon has a wonderful time. I just think that it is not matching up to my personal cruising style, but Tesla Talk, it sounds like it is 100% yours, and I'm excited for you to go on that sailing. Jen, I'm thrilled to have you on as well for the November 3rd group cruise. If you are not there, the JotForm is still down below. I think it's probably pretty late for most people to be signing up for it, but it is November 3rd coming up in just a few weeks on Allure of the Seas inaugural weekend sailing. Yeah, after doing Wonder, which Wonder I think is actually a really well-designed ship. I enjoyed Wonder of the Seas when I was there. I don't want to go on her all the time, but she's a good ship. But if you like smaller ships, I think Virgin is a really good-sized ship. She's going to be equivalent to, I think, like a Voyager class is what she's going to be coming in at. So you're talking Navigator, Mariner, those size ships. Alice, we'll see. I mean, I don't want to make this an economics channel by any stretch, But there are certainly a lot of factors in the world that are going on right now. And should those shift and everybody has to start saving and pinching pennies, you'll definitely see the prices come down some. And cruise ships that are still strapped from COVID are going to be in rough shape. Sig, I am loving this for you again. Please report back. Let us know how it's going. Want to see plenty of pictures on how it's going. Java, I don't know that I'd say unloyal to Royal these days. But one thing that I did want to chat with everybody about today, so I'll go ahead and switch into this conversation a little bit as the comments are blowing up, and I don't want to keep everybody forever, is, I am definitely a little bit of a free agent these days. So this month alone, I am going to go on 4 different cruise lines, which is crazy. And they're the ones that I kind of personally prioritize. So I'm going to be going on the Independence of the Seas with Royal Caribbean. I'm going to be going on Virgin with Scarlet Lady, which I actually just got off of 2 weeks ago. I just got back from the MSC Seaside this morning, and I've got the Celebrity Summit or Silhouette, one of the two. I think it's the Silhouette at the end of the month as well. So 4 cruise lines in 1 month, which didn't plan it that way. That's just the way that I'm booking cruises these days. Loyalty doesn't have much to do with it. I've got loyalty now. I've got good loyalty with Royal Caribbean that you all know about, with honestly the best program, the best benefits. I've got semi-loyalty with Celebrity because they don't have an awesome reciprocal agreement. I've got Virgin's program. They've only got 1 tier that I'm in, and MSC matches me at their highest tier as well, which is actually a decent program. They gave me a specialty restaurant for free on this 3-night sailing that I was on, which is what, $50, $60 value. Which I'm all about. They bring me macarons, the bottle of champagne, a chocolate bar, all for a 3-night sailing. So they actually do, I think, take care in different ways. I mean, it's not 6 free drinks or coffees. I'm having to drink regular American coffee because I'm too cheap to pay for the espresso these days. But it's still a good time. And so when I'm looking at cruises, I'm just booking where I want to go, what's the best itinerary, what's a weekend sailing, and what's a good price. And so with that, this month I just wound up being on a lot of different ones. And I'm going back to Port Canaveral next week. I'm doing Indy. I'm also trying to get on different ships. So I've really been focused in on Freedom of the Seas, staying there. And I'm really starting to sail around some. I'll come back to Freedom, of course, as long as she stays in Miami doing weekends. But I'm really enjoying seeing other cruise lines, other ships, because it's almost like I get to enjoy myself again. Not that I don't enjoy having a home ship, knowing everybody there. There's a different way of appreciating that and enjoying that experience versus these days, I'm really going to MSC, Celebrity, Virgin, and seeing the shows because I can only see Once Upon a Time so many times. And I think that I'm really enjoying the spice of life, the variety that comes with being on other ships and just honestly having to learn something again. Because when you're on the same ship all the time, you know the ins and outs of it, you know the nooks and crannies, you know how it happens. I'm really enjoying going somewhere else and not knowing those things, that feeling of just learning something new. By the way, oh, you can't really see the color here too much. I just got a new phone. My Pixel 8 Pro just came in. So I switched to Google phones from iPhones a few years ago because the same concept. I wanted to learn something new. I didn't want to just do the same old anymore. And I think I found myself doing that with Royal Caribbean a lot. So super glad to be, I'll call it a non-loyalist these days. Not unloyal, but just non-loyalist. When I'm making decisions, I'm not blindly going with Royal Caribbean. I'm booking what's going to be the best cruise for me. And, luckily, there's a little bit of competition out there these days, which is a pretty cool thing. Chocolate colored strawberries, those always look leaky to me. They always start leaking out the side. I don't know how long they've been there. Those aren't always my favorites. I have, Alex. I've done 2 Christmas cruises so far. One on Celebrity and one on Royal Caribbean Jewel of the Seas, and then on the Summit. And they're great. So I did them over in South America, and I did it over in the Middle East. And so the Middle East one had a very strong British contingent UK population. They were 700 of the cruise passengers there. So Christmas took on a very British tone to it with their fruit cake and beef Wellingtons and all that. Down in South America, I don't want to say that it was more of a non-event. They celebrated it the day before because the day of Christmas we were in a port. We were all doing excursions, couldn't be bothered. So they did it the day before on a sea day, and it was a really good experience. They do recognize multiple holidays that fall. So if you're going for Hanukkah as well, Kwanzaa, there are things that will be happening for those as well. John, I don't disagree with this. I think they are nice to have. People, loyalty programs are a marketing strategy, right? To get us to book more cruises without thinking about it with that company. And I think people here, they're moving up the tiers. And I know this from the comments that people love moving up those tiers, getting to that emerald status, getting to that platinum status. That's important to people. They have enjoyed making that status. Benefits, they don't really care about it. They just want to know that they've made that status. So we'll see how it plays out. I think that they definitely still need to solve for that gap between, Diamond Plus, which is at 175, to get to Pinnacle, which is 700. I mean, it makes no sense. There is a quasi 340, if you will, like a Diamond Plus Plus, as some people call it, where you get a few more benefits that's built in there without being its own tier. But I wouldn't be surprised if that became a hardwired tier and they bumped everything up. Just my take on the future. Bo, I will see you there. I will be there in 86 days, apparently. I don't have a countdown clock. But one of my friends keeps joking with me. He's like, hey, how long are you going to be at home this time? And I was like, actually, this time I'm going to be home, I think, for 5 days, which is a lot for me. I'm not going to leave until Thursday again. So I'm here Sunday to Thursday. But normally I'm never home for very long periods of time. Oh, so if you went on a different, let me read this one more time. I went on Mariner and Indy side by side. Huge mistake. There is a skeletal crew, very low supplies, because they all went to Wonder. You're going to see that happen because, like we're talking about prices with Icon, they can't mess that sailing up. So if you're going on Icon of the Seas, they got to have all the supplies. Us peasants on the older ships, we kind of get shortchanged a little bit. Java, I've not heard anything about COVID on cruise ships. Is it on cruise ships? Absolutely. I've not heard of anyone getting sick. I've heard of some folks getting sick when they've come back. Scarlet Lady actually had a gastro outbreak a week or two ago. I think it was the sailing after mine. So I got lucky on that one. Gastro is still around. That's still a thing on cruise ships. COVID absolutely is still a thing on there. And pretty soon, so is the flu as we go into the winter season. Miriam, that is going to be an awesome time. I love sailing with my mom, so super excited you're going to be able to do that as well. Andrew, you should make a YouTube video on what you think of Margaritaville. I've tried to go over there a few times, and because I'm a solo, they won't let me book a room online. So I get a little temperamental and, shake my fist at them and never book them. So I have not gone on that yet. Going on MSC, you're going to have a blast on MSC. I'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. Any notable difference between Port Miami and Fort Lauderdale? I think the biggest difference to me there, Jen, is that Port Miami was designed to be a cruise passenger terminal. So yes, it's got a large port presence. They've got a lot of shipping containers, boats that come in. But getting through the port terminal itself where cruise passengers goes feels like an airport. It is very well designed, very well laid out, and they continue doing construction over there. Fort Lauderdale was what feels like at first a shipping port, and then they just happened to add cruise ships to it. So it's very disjointed. You've got to go through security to get into it because it's all part of the shipping port, which there can be some lines for, and everybody shows up at the same time. So navigation-wise, getting into it, Miami, hands down for me, is the easiest one. However, there's some people that say they don't like the congestion in Miami, getting to Miami. Hotel prices here are more expensive. The airport is going to be more expensive. And so they appreciate Fort Lauderdale more, even though the port might not be as easy. But if you're coming into American on Miami, stick with Miami. Oh, I'll have to check on that, Brian. Thank you for the notice. So if anybody wants to go on the weekend cruise, the group weekend cruise, send me an email at theweekendcruiser@gmail.com. All one word, theweekendcruiser@gmail. And I'll get you over to the travel agent for us. Looks like there's a lot of Icon fans out there. Kristen's also going to be joining it. Adam's going to be joining it. y'all should really start like your own group so that you know some people on there. Because if you don't, you're never going to find each other once you get on the ship. You're going to be in a sea of people. Hey, Rico, glad you can make it. I think the 7 o'clock time, if nothing else from the numbers is working out. Normally when I was doing it with 3 or 4, we're around like 40 people strong, but looks like there's 80 of you in here right now, which blows my mind a little bit. I never thought when I started this channel, it would be anything, let alone to have 80 of you tuning into a live stream. So thank you for coming and hanging out with me. Sig, I am with you on this one 100%. I'm branching out too. I don't know if I'm going to go past 4 cruise lines because I still like knowing a little bit what's going on. But the only ones that I'm really not doing these days that do weekend sailings are Carnival and Norwegian. And both of them do them here and there. They don't do them like they used to. I don't know that Norwegian even does weekend sailings anymore. They used to have the Sky out of Miami all the time. So maybe I missed my chance on that one. But we'll see. Again, I look at the schedule. I see what I can get. You're also going to see Brandon doing a lot more budget cruising coming up. So I'm booking $300 sailings to really help out on the budget and allow me to continue going. It's funny how by Royal raising their prices, I said, well, why am I doing this? Why am I paying so much? And I started shopping for cheaper sailings that offer a very similar product. And I'm finding that. I'm with you, Miriam. I think that is the way to go. Dina, the one that I'm enjoying the most these days is Virgin Voyages. From a ship perspective, I'm not going to talk about their itinerary. Their itinerary here in the U.S. is not the best. But from a ship perspective, the show, the vibe, the energy, I really enjoy Virgin Voyages. It does come at a premium. It is a premium cruise line, so you're going to pay a little bit more for it, but there's a ton of stuff that's going to be included in that price. So you're going to get basic Wi-Fi, gratuities are included. You're going to have all specialty restaurants, and their food is the best on the high seas. This is even better than Royal and Celebrity's specialty restaurants. So I can't talk more about them. So they do a fantastic job. If you're looking at checking prices, use the affiliate link down below so you can compare apples to apples. They've got some 4 nights that go to Bimini and Key West, which I think is a wonderful cruise if you're looking for a shorter one or just want to test your feet with Virgin Voyages. Yeah, I mean, we don't talk about COVID that much, but illnesses on cruise ship, illnesses in the world, whether you're on a cruise ship or you're going to Costco on a Saturday, there's still a chance of you getting some kind of a virus, something that's contagious. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And so cruise ships are not immune to that. If anything, we're all there for a full week together. So we've got a little bit better of a chance probably. Ooh, Disney Cruise Line, they do a weekend cruise. Now, if you want to check out an expensive weekend cruise, speaking of prices, Rico, they've got a fantastic offering. I did Disney years ago with the family when, my brother had some younger kids. We had an awesome time. It is an expensive cruise, but like Disney always does, they show up to that cost. They are going to give you a fantastic experience. Yes, if you want to book, apparently you got to call in with Margaritaville at Sea if you're going to be a solo cruiser. You can't just go on the website and get it done. I am, Alex. So first of all, I look forward to seeing you on the group cruise. I actually started drafting an email just yesterday that I need to get out to everybody. So I need to confirm when our dining time is going to be, but then I'm going to have some special events that we're all going to do. Sometimes we're going to meet up, get to know everybody, and we should have a fantastic time. So be on the lookout. Hopefully that'll come out this week, Alex. Mary, thank you. Yes, if everybody would press the thumbs up button, it means a tremendous amount to us content creators out there. It is an easy way. Speaking of cheap, it is the cheapest way you can support us with just a click of the button. Oh, Nathan, I was just chatting with Ryan this morning, actually. He's one of those friends that I was talking about earlier, and I was chatting with a friend. I started telling a story. That was Ryan. So me and him definitely keep up a little bit. He was a resident cruiser on Freedom of the Seas for a long time. All-inclusive, that's not a bad strategy. I wish more cruise lines would move towards that. But instead, they're saying we're going to charge you a cheap price, and then everything's going to be a la carte, and you'll wind up paying more. It's all marketing at the end of the day. Yeah, anytime. I mean, it's kind of like the kids' first week of school. I mean, was there COVID going around schools when they both opened back up not too long ago? Absolutely. People used to ask me where I got COVID from when I had it the one time. And I actually, unfortunately, came down with it on a cruise ship. I mean, I had like a 50-50 shot of getting sick on a ship or not. I had no idea where I got it from. The incubation stage would have said I got it on land, but you never know. You can't necessarily trace that. Even if you know somebody that has COVID, there might be a stronger chance of getting it, but there's no way that you can know that that is necessarily where it came from unless that is the only person you've had contact with. Yeah, wait until I mean, you can bring a teenager at 18 years old, Rico, if you want to. But at this point, I'd use it as a reason to leave the teenager at home and go and enjoy yourself. Hey, let's travel. All right, so I am fully caught up with the comments here. Let's move on into MSC. So I met a few of you on MSC this weekend. I'll call it a weekend. It was Thursday to Sunday. I don't know why they didn't do it as an actual weekend sailing, but they didn't. So it's Thursday to Sunday, and it's a 3-night. I think it's because their Sunday, they probably wind up doing a 7-night and coming back the next Sunday. But it was for an opportunity to go on the Seaside, which, by the way, is a beautiful ship. Like, they did a really good job of Seaside. It is a different look. It is a different feel than what you're used to with Royal Caribbean. I'll make a whole video just on this. But it is very well done. And it took me some getting used to. The first day that I was there, I was like, I don't know where I'm going. Like, you think you can walk this way. It looks like there's going to be a hallway there. There's not. But once you kind of get the hang and the feel of it, it's really nice. And I'm also learning that I like the lounges and the smaller spaces they have on MSC. The way that I compare it is every time you turn around, you feel like you're in another cafe. There's another place you can enjoy, a coffee or a cafe with a group of people. There are chairs all throughout, lots of lounging areas, socializing areas, places where you can play canasta or bridge or whatever it is you want to play. I really got to where I like that. On Royal Caribbean, it's very open. You walk into the promenade and you see everybody. You're up on the pool deck, you see everybody. I think because you have line of sight, it does feel larger and bigger, but it also feels more crowded to me a little bit because I am seeing, there's 1,000 people in my line of sight. Whereas on MSC, you're not going to see that many people because you just don't have that line of sight to be able to see them. So I enjoyed going on MSC. I'll also say that I'm going to make a video about the food. And I was going to put this off until I did MSC a little bit more, but so many people talk about the food on MSC, and most of the time it's with a negative connotation. But I will tell you, the food on MSC is the same exact food you are going to get on Royal Caribbean or on Celebrity. Like literally last night, I had arancini, short ribs, and cheesecake. The same exact meal I would have ordered on a Royal Caribbean ship. Same exact stuff. They do take their own little spin to it. They make it a little bit different. The quality is the same. What they're presenting is the same. Though interestingly, I would say that in their buffet, in their marketplace, they have the same exact food options. And you're going to have some Indian, you're going to have the garlic chicken, you're going to have some vegetables, you're going to have pizza. They go a little bit further. They've got different sections, a lot more little sections. And I feel like they have the same thing that I see on other cruise lines, but they offer additional things. They have even more variety on MSCs, at least in the marketplace. I don't remember this as much when I was on the Divina, but in the marketplace, I absolutely felt like there were more selections and more options to choose from. Doesn't mean everybody's gonna like all those things. Some of it was like for breakfast, they have the smoked, not capers at that point, but smoked fish, little small, narrow ones that you will eat that I personally love. They're really flavorful. Not everybody's thing, but that's something that I remember you don't have. They even had this little strawberry white chocolate pizza slice for breakfast this morning, which shouldn't be telling you all the bad things that I'm eating. But it was super good. It was, if you remember the old toaster strudels that I used to have when I was a kid, you'd cut it off and like sprinkle over the frosting. It tasted just like that. Like it was such a nostalgic moment. It was super good. Their baked goods, their pastries, their coffee was fantastic. Like they really excel because it's an Italian cruise line. Those are things that they do really, really good in. So if you are on the fence, if you're looking at what cruise line should you go to, price shop. MSC's prices these days are really good, especially compared to the others. And I will tell you, it is a very similar experience that you will have on Royal Caribbean. It is almost, I don't want to say an identical experience, but they are super close. The ships are going to be set up and designed differently. That's where I see the biggest difference coming in. But the game shows that you play, the food that you're going to eat, the entertainment that you're going to see, it's all going to look and feel very, very similar. So give them a try if you're looking at it. If you want to stick with Royal, totally get it. They've got a solid product. But if you are price shopping and maybe you see that there's a better itinerary that you want to check out that only MSC is doing, I would say give them a go at this point. Like they're pretty good. And I would also say that people are doing that. From the ship, you've seen a few people in the comments already saying, hey, great to meet you on MSC. Those are people that probably found my channel because a lot of what I talk about is Royal Caribbean from their Royal Caribbean days, and now they're venturing out a little bit and giving MSC a try. I think that it's a really solid cruise line. It's making waves. It is coming after the Americas market. They are going to be, I almost wanted to call them, the ultra low cost carrier, but they're not really an ultra low cost carrier. They are at a cheaper price point, but they're still going to give you and provide for you the same way that you're going to get on the other cruise lines. So check them out, see if it works for you. If you want to do the yacht club, that is something that I have not had the opportunity to do, though interestingly enough, they've got a bid up program for the yacht club. And did you know they've got an interior yacht club room? Like if you want to pay a premium to get the yacht club experience, they've got interior cabins. They looked beautiful in the pictures. I did not do that because I didn't want to spend any more money. Again, budget cruise. But if you wanted to check that experience out, you don't have to spend a ton of money to get into their yacht club. And that is them doing what the industry calls a cruise ship within a cruise ship. So it is completely sectioned off. When you're in an MSC ship, you cannot access the front forward section of that ship because that's exclusive to the yacht club members. Royal Caribbean's tried to do this with Wonder of the Seas, but the yacht club goes above and beyond. You've got your own restaurant. You've got your own pool, like a proper pool, not like the one that Wonder of the Seas has on the side. You're going to have concierge, and you're going to have a dedicated area that only you can access. Nobody else can come up through the stairs and get into that section. Does come at a higher price point, but those folks, I mean, you are greeted with champagne, and you have your own entry line, you have your own exit line. Like they take care of their yacht club members. I still got off the ship today, very easy without a problem. So you don't necessarily need that for MSC, but if you want that really high-end experience, they will give that for you on MSC. One thing that I found funny, and this, I'm probably going to wind up making a video about this month. I'm going on 4 different cruise lines in a month and thinking through how can I maybe do comparison videos to show you all what my experience has been from cruise ship to cruise ship. MSC's app, let's talk Cruise MSC or My Cruise MSC, is the worst app out there. It is just not good. It's extremely limited. It's not good at all. And they still give you paperwork. Like I forgot how much paperwork Royal Caribbean used to give to our staterooms. I kid you not. I probably got 25 to 30 pieces of paper in my room on this MSC sailing. Like it was almost comical because I could use the app for some stuff. But I had forgotten what that life was like because we've not done that on Royal Caribbean or Celebrity in ages. We've not had that level of paperwork. So just little small things like that you wind up noticing. But I'm going to try to make some videos. Let me know in the comments, if I'm comparing 4 different cruise lines, Virgin, Celebrity, Royal, MSC, what is it you'd want to compare those to? So, I want to make sure it's educational. It's about my experience. There's some things, that I was thinking of like the stateroom and the food, but what else would you all want to know about in a comparison before 4 different videos? I think that might be a neat little series that I can make because I think we're always saying, how is this compared to that? I'll even compare, and I have compared Royal Caribbean to Virgin. They are 2 very different cruise lines, right? One's mass market, and then one's premium. Though the price difference isn't always there. You still got to shop those out. but it's tough to compare a premium cruise line and a mass market cruise line. But we still do, like at least I do. I think it's human nature to compare different experiences, and then we can kind of talk price afterwards and say, okay, is that elevated experience worth the price? And that's what I hopefully hope help all of you answer, or will answer in this series of videos, is what are the differences? And then you can look and say, is that something that I value and I want to spend money on? As I mentioned in my pet peeve video that I made a while ago, I hate answering the question, is it worth it? I can't answer that for you. I mean, I will not spend money on decent transportation for me going to Port Canaveral today. I will do it as cheap as I can because it means I get to go on more cruises. And you might be like, oh, I would never do that. Speaking of which, let me tell you about my trip to Port Canaveral to get on this MSC ship. So I haven't been to Port Canaveral since I moved to Miami, I don't think. So when I lived in Fort Lauderdale, I went a few times and I would just drive. I had a car. Soon as I moved to Miami, I sold my car the day of. I was out. Didn't want the insurance, didn't want the payments. And I can go on another cruise. Like a car was costing me 1.5 to 2 cruises a month. I don't need that kind of stress in my life. So I decided to get rid of it. But now that I booked Port Canaveral, because I thought that was a fantastic idea a year and a half ago, I had to go, how am I getting to Port Canaveral and how much is this going to cost me? And I found a pretty, I'll call it affordable way to get there. So I looked around. Many of you may know the Brightline goes there these days. Brightline is not what I would call an affordable way to get there. One-way tickets on Brightline start at $80. And you still have to then take an Uber afterwards. So what I decided to do was go with Red Coach, which is a bus line here in Florida and Texas. I don't know how they wound up in Florida and Texas, but those are the two states that they're in. And they operate what they call luxury buses. So I was able to book they have 3 different classes. They've got what they call their premium economy. They've got a business bus and they've got a first class bus. On the way up there, I booked their business bus for $25. Not bad. Picks up at the airport, takes me up there. The big difference there is I had to take a train to get out to the airport, and Brightline is boop, right over there, if you can see out my window, which would have been super easy to get to. But I was being cheap, didn't want to spend money, so fine, I'll pay $2.25 to get to the airport. And took the bus up to essentially the other side of the airport in Miami. So the Uber cost after Brightline is going to be null. I do choose to take an Uber from wherever I come in. If I come into the airport, Brightline, the Red Coach bus station, and take it over. But the bus was a really good experience. Like on the way up there, I was able to work. I answered comments. You all probably know at this point, like I'll sit down and answer every single comment in one swoop. And I normally do that once a week. I'll answer every single comment. Just sit down, knock it out, which I love doing, by the way. Thank you all for commenting. So, I did that on the way up there. I had plenty of seat. Like these chairs on this bus reclined a stupid amount. Like you're almost in the person's lap behind you. And if you wanted to sleep on this bus, you could absolutely do it. The premium economy bus wasn't quite as spacious. Seats were still super nice. It was quiet. It was comfortable. Nobody sat beside of me. There was probably 45 people on the bus. So there was a good shot of that. But it was a really good time. So if you're looking at going from Orlando to Miami or Miami to Orlando, it makes stops in Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, St. Lucie, Port St. Lucie as well. Check out the Red Coach. Not paid to do this. I did email them though, letting them know I was going to start talking about them some. But I thought it was a really good experience. And for $25 a person, if you are a family of 4 and you pay Brightline $80 per person, that's going to be a huge savings for you and your family. So consider, there's not a shuttle that I know of, like a 15-passenger van or anything, that goes from Miami directly to Port Canaveral. You kind of got to go to Orlando and then go over to the port. And I wound up staying at the La Quinta. So I went on Priceline, found what I thought was a decent enough non-Bates Motel hotel that I could stay at. Had a wonderful time. I got there about midnight because I was on a later bus. Stayed there, worked from their lounge lobby, and then headed over to the ship in the afternoon, just like I normally would have done. And it was a good experience. I slept super good in that hotel. And I think it was about $100 all in, $80 plus tax. And I had a really good experience. So shout out to the La Quinta. They have a small breakfast there too, which I appreciate because I didn't want to have to walk down the street to get some food. So that is my MSC experience in a nutshell. Be on the lookout. Once I finish up my series on virgin voyages, we're going to take that journey through MSC on a lot more videos where those topics I kind of just hopefully quenched a little bit of your thirst on my thoughts on MSC. I think it is a good cruise line, but I'm going to be showing you more why I think it is a good cruise line coming up in some videos. Let's come over to the comment section again. Look like I lost my space a little bit. Here we go. So JN, one reason I'm looking at MSC, they're not charging us the single supplement. They're not charging us that double all the time. It'll oftentimes be 150%, 125%, or just 100% or one person. So another reason why I like MSC, us solo cruisers don't get messed around with quite as much. Alan, that is certainly a travel agent question. I don't know all the logistics of closed loop. I think I know what that means as far as she can't get off in a different place or something like that. But that's outside of my lane, unfortunately. I know the cruise ship experience. How people get there, I don't always know. So I'd recommend, calling up a travel agent and seeing if you can get some support on that one. Sorry, I can't be of more help. Alice, glad to hear you had a good time on Meravalia. I'm practicing my MSC ship names. Notice, I think I got it right, Meravalia. That is the one that I'm going to be on for January, February, and March. So I booked 3 months worth of weekends for $300, including taxes and $50 of onboard credit. Yes, please. I will do that all day long, and I ate them up when I saw those prices. And their loyalty program is what's giving me the $50 if you book more than a year in advance. So it pays to plan. So I'm glad to hear you had a good experience then again, and we'll try them. I've heard that ship is even more beautiful. It does have a bit of a promenade to it. I think they probably call it something different, but it has a different look and feel to it. But it's supposed to be a really pretty ship. So Rico, this is more so the case in Europe. When you're in the US, those announcements that you hear on my sailing, I only heard it in English. They did not even really make Spanish announcements on the MSC ship. And that's because the announcements that they do are based on percentage of passengers that speak that language as their first language. So if there's only 1% of the population that name that language, they're not going to translate it. But if there is a sizable amount or one of scale, they will do the translation. And I've not had a problem with that. Royal is going to do the same thing in Europe, by the way. If you go there, our drill was in 4 different languages when I was on the Greek cruise. It was in English, Spanish, German, and Italian. So it's not really a cruise line thing. They're not going to do that in the US if nobody on the ship is speaking those languages. So if you're doing a US cruise, you don't have anything to worry about on that. But yes, the 4 announcements takes a while. This is very true, Petite. Though I gave up my UK folks, they're hopefully not tuning in unless there's some late night owls over there. But glad you could join. I've heard this from a lot of people, Miriam, that the food's not been good on MSC. I think, they are figuring out their footing and it is getting better. I've had good experiences with it. But I will tell you, like with any cruise ship that is out there or cruise line that is out there, wherever you go, that ship could just be having an off sailing with its food. I've certainly seen the food on Freedom of the Seas ebb and flow. There's some periods where it is fantastic. I've got certain food and beverage executives or directors, I should say, that I attribute that to. And there's sometimes where it's just not that great. There's not a lot of variety. So it can change with every single ship to ship, even within the same cruise line. You can find a different quality of that food. So I don't want to say that it's hit or miss. I wish that there was more quality control around this, even with Royal that I know really well. But MSC on the sailings that I've been on has been a decent experience. I'm trying to think, there was one thing that I didn't like on there was my Southern Roots came out. I ordered the chicken and waffles, which was their special of the evening in the main dining room. And it's just, Their waffles, I think, are Italian style because they don't have waffles in Europe. They have crepes or their pancakes. The waffle was just super dense. Luckily, they had a really good hot honey or spicy honey that I was able to drench it in, and it got much better when I did that. But it was just super dense. I think that was one thing I didn't like. I feel like there was something else, but there's only one or two things. And I mean, because I have to make YouTube videos about this, right? I had to try a ton of stuff. Had to try so much food, so many desserts this weekend. But you know, there's only two things I didn't like, and I probably ate a solid 30 some items if I had to guess. Oh, that was not good, Patches. That's horrible timing. Hopefully you have a chance of making it back to the seaside. Andrew, I look forward to your Margaritaville at Sea opinions. If I can't get there and get my own opinions, I trust yours more than anyone. Mary, that is really good information to know. So as we were talking about bidding up on MSC, they've got the same kind of Royal Up program. If you're doing the yacht club, don't buy your drink package until the last moment because it's going to be included with your yacht club fare. So good to know. And if you're not going to get the package refunded, you definitely don't want to risk that because the package is not going to be cheap. Though I'm not a drinker. I don't look at the drink packages for cruise lines too terribly often. But I hear that the value you get from the price to, I guess, number of drinks ratio of the drink package for MSC is actually really good. When you're booking the cruise, they'll give you certain packages you can buy at the onset. And apparently the value that you get for the drink package and the Wi-Fi is actually really good. So it makes it difficult for us cruisers to compare apples to apples, but that's what I hear. I'll keep in mind no Tuesdays or Wednesdays. If I did it midweek, Monday seems like the day that I'd want to do it. I just got back from the ships. Everything's fresh. That makes sense to me. Brian, I will do that. You know, I track a lot of stuff. You all should see my spreadsheet on how I track my cruises. When I booked, I don't know that I have when I booked. I guess I could go back and look at the booking confirmation. I've got the sail date, the ship, the room type, the ports that it's going to go to. I've got the prices, break out the taxes. I've got all that in the spreadsheet, but I don't have the day that I booked it on. But I can easily find that. If I'm doing it just for 4, that's really good information to know. Yeah, check out Red Coach. I had a great experience. $25 to get me up to Orlando. It is dynamic pricing, so if you book it, make sure you try to do it, I'd say just 3 weeks in advance. You don't have to do it a lot. Because I went back and looked after the fact, and they've gone up to $45. Still not horrible, but something you want to keep in mind. Jen, you might get your wish on this one with the group cruises. I'm certainly looking at MSC and Virgin. There's going to be a poll question going out on the Facebook group. So if you're not part of the original Facebook group, make sure that you're checking that out down below so that you can vote in this poll as well on where you want the ship to go. Andrew, the internet on MSC, not horrible. It wasn't the most efficient. It was more stable than Royal Caribbean in the way that I needed it to be. I was able to not stream. I was able to scroll on TikTok without a problem. I watched some YouTube videos, no issues. There were times or periods where it'd be a little bit more laggy. I did buy up to, they still do like basic and premium. I bought the premium. 2 devices was $119 for 3 days, which is crazy to me. I will certainly check out freshly made cheese any day. I don't even care what kind of cheese it is. I love cheese. So I will certainly be checking out the freshly made mozzarella. I didn't see that on the Seaside. Did I like the cruise director? We had Dave was our cruise director. I mean, I don't know that I had an opinion on the cruise director or not. He was personable, but I think some things that annoyed me a little bit about Dave. Not that I think these are his fault necessarily. The muster drill, and I'll talk about this in a video, for MSC is done differently. It is not done the way that I think that I would like for it to be done. It's done in a very loud fashion, meaning Dave, being the cruise director, he's in charge of making emergency announcements and getting everybody to their muster station. They make announcements into the cabin to get people to go to their muster station based on the floor that they're on. They made this announcement, I kid you not, probably 8 different times, and he's loud. Like, I know that, it's his job to get people to muster, but I mean, normally I do plug my ears for the emergency siren. When it goes off, the 7 short, 1 long, I plug my ears because I'm like, look, I go on a lot of cruises. If I hear this blaring noise once a week for the rest of my life, I'm going to go deaf. He was louder than the emergency signal coming into the room those 8 times with a sizable announcement on these floors need to go. It's very important that you go. Yeah. Fine. The other thing that kind of got me a little bit is MSC, and I don't think Royal might be too terribly far behind this, is very adamant on letting you know that 9s and 10s in the survey help support the futures and the career mobility of their crew members. They need a 9 and 10 to be able to move up in the company. And they're almost blaming you. If you give them a bad score on you're the reason why that they're not going to get promoted. They're not going to get the next job opportunity because you gave them an 8. And it was announced during debarkation. So they call, by numbers like any cruise line would, but then they go into this diatribe about the survey, how important it is and how important that 9 and 10 is. And it really benefits the crew members. And it's doing a really big arm twist, if you will, to get those high scores. I get that other cruise lines talk about this, but MSC kind of took the cake on the debarkation process with it, and that was Dave. That's the reason I'm talking about this, is he's also the one getting us off the ship, which was a very smooth process, by the way. Super easy getting off the ship. But I just felt that it was approached from the wrong way. I think people, number one, don't understand the way that corporate America looks at surveys is if you don't give a 9, they have this thing called a top 2 box score, meaning the top 2 boxes, 10 and 9, is what they focus on. Whatever the percentage of people giving you a score of one of those 2 numbers is what your score is going to be. So essentially, if you give somebody an 8, it's going to be the same thing as a 0 to them. It's not going to count to the metric that counts for them. They need a 9 or 10 to show that they have done well. And so I think a lot of people, will say that, I'm not going to give a 10 because there's always room for improvement. You've always got the person that thinks that. 9, also not a bad score. And I would even argue an 8 is not a bad score, especially knowing some of the people that I know. I've seen y'all on a cruise ship. Y'all are critical as all sometimes. So I think giving an 8, not necessarily a bad thing. But the way corporate America looks at these surveys, 9 and 10, top 2 box score is what matters. And MSC just went above and beyond to let us know that not only does it matter, but then they tied it into the well-being of the crew member, which I just thought super annoyed me, because that should not be on me, the cruise passenger, to dictate their advancement and what they're doing next. Look, us guests don't get that right. Same reason I'm not a huge fan of tipping on a cruise ship, and that I don't want to go down that right now. But it is not to me, the cruise passenger, to determine whether somebody gets a salary increase, whether they get promoted, or whether they get demoted. That should not be my job. That should be management's responsibility to know their employee and know the service they're offering. Yes, a survey can give you a lens into that, but to drive it home on this, I just thought it was a little over the top. Sorry, didn't mean to ramble on about that, but I feel passionate about certain things. I would not, babe. I think you made the right decision on not doing Aqua or the retreat. I did a 12 night sailing around South America on Celebrity, and we did the Aqua class. Me and my travel partner that I travel with on these long cruises, we booked the Asia Celebrity for end of this year, and we said, you know what? It's not worth the price. The benefit of being in the Aqua Suite for us wasn't worth it. The food was fine. I mean, you get to eat in a nicer restaurant called Blue, but we ate the food from the main dining room too, and it was just as good. We went in there for lunch. We enjoyed it. And the room is the exact same. The room does not change. And so we said, look, we'll just eat in the main dining room, save several hundreds of dollars each, and be just as content. I mean, if nothing else, I'm paying for a flight over to Asia. I'd rather, upgrade myself there than feel like I'm getting some frou-frou service is what the Aqua class is to me. Maybe I missed some of the advantages of it, We're not really huge thermal people, but I did go into their thermal spa just to check it out. Not a big deal. But I think you made the absolute right call in not doing the aqua class. And again, this is me answering, is it worth it? Which I hate to do. But to me, the benefits were not worth it. So I don't think that there's anything that you have to brace for, especially if you've got 6-night specialty. I would say brace for eating your face off. You're going to have a wonderful time, and you're going to eat, and you're going to have a great experience. So you're going to be absolutely fine. Alex, I'll say young, foolish Brandon, maybe, yeah, I like my junior suites. I can certainly be a fanboy of a junior suite. But what you're going to see coming out on the channel is that's slowly shifting. It started with me booking more balconies. And honestly, now I'm booking more budget-friendly cruises for $300, $400. I'm getting interior rooms, solo cabins, because, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And I think the more that I cruise, the more I want to cruise. And the reason I can't keep doing junior suites is that someday I want to be able to retire from my full-time job. I need to do a better job of saving so that I can make that happen. And going on these cruises all the time, I'm not in my room that much. The one thing I'm going to miss from having balconies all the time is I'm not going to have that wonderful natural light that you all see hitting me when I'm recording videos. I'm going to have to be a little bit more creative, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I think that actually might make the videos a little bit better if I start recording them from other locations around the ship. But you're going to start seeing a lot more come down. I do love a junior suite. I think it is, for the money and for the size you get, I think that it is a wonderful offering. Yes, it doesn't come with the true suite perks or benefits that you're going to get at that grand level or higher. But I am very good with the junior suite. But you're going to see me start to focus more in on budget cruising and how you can do that as a solo cruiser. Because I just went through and booked like 7 or 8 more celebrity cruises in 2025. The ship that's doing their weekends out of Fort Lauderdale has 4 solo cabins on it that were going for $250 plus tax for the weekend. Okay, tease me with a good time, especially when for a solo person to go into a traditional interior room is running $800. I will book it all day long. It pays to plan in advance, especially if you're a solo cruiser. We got some extra obstacles to go around. But I'm having really good luck planning well into 2025. Rico, thank you. I try to be realistic. I don't know if positive is the right word. I do like keeping everything on an upbeat. When I originally sat out and made the channel The Weekend Cruiser, I was like, I'm putting myself on social media. Like, there's so much negative out there. People was always like, oh, it's the worst cruise ever, and trying to drum up views. And I made a commitment to myself that that's not the way that I wanted to grow this channel. And it's probably growing slower because I'm not doing that. And I'm okay with it because it is the way that I wanted to do it. And I have realistic conversations. If something doesn't go over well, I'm good telling you all that, hey, this wasn't a great experience. I'm not going to blow it out of the water. And I still had a good cruise. I'm confident. I've never had a bad cruise. So whatever that one random thing was, it'll be fine. So I just made that commitment to myself, and I'm glad that that comes through in the conversation. You learn something, and you get to feel good about it at the end of the day. You don't feel like you've witnessed a bad experience or negativity. We don't need that in our lives, do we? Yeah, Sig, I think I started, I don't know, the logic of me, I think there's something to be said for those folks who don't get to go on a lot of vacations or on a lot of cruises. If you're doing 1 or 2 cruises per year, and that's where you're able to funnel your money into, I think that a suite makes a lot of sense. If you're somebody like me and I go, oh, but I have this real passion to go as often as I can, and I've got it structured where I can do that, I'm going to say, let me not buy that suite. And instead, I'm going to go on 2 more cruises for the weekend. That's kind of how my, cruise ship math, I know that is making its rounds on TikTok these days, like boy math, girl math, dog math, corporate math. Cruise ship math is I go in an interior so that I can go on 3 more cruises. All right, looks like I'm all caught up in the comment section. So if you all have anything else that you want to chat about at this point, let me know. So the poll looks like 64% wanted a weekend live, and 35% wanted a midweek. So it looks like we're going to be sticking with the weekend here. I do like this 7 o'clock. You all have turned up for it. So thank you for coming and hanging out with me. I actually really enjoy these. I don't have to script them too much. I just kind of see what comes up throughout the week, what interests me in the cruising world. And then I get to come and share it with you all, which I think is pretty neat. So I'm going to pause. If there's any questions, things you all want to talk about, I'm going on about an hour and a half of chatting right now. So if you want to, ask a question, we can certainly do that. Or I'll, more than gladly probably end this. My voice, I don't know if you can hear it or not, doesn't necessarily like the hour and a half mark. That's where it starts to kind of fade out a little bit. Though interestingly, the other place that my voice is not good with making videos, and I did this on the Explore the Seas. You heard my voice on the full ship tour that I did for it, because I did that ship tour at 6 in the morning. And I just did a ship tour on the MSC Seaside at, I think it was 7:30 in the morning. And my voice, I just listened to the playback a moment ago before starting this. My voice is just as groggy as it could have been. And I'm like, oh, wow. I need to do some warm-up exercises for my voice before I turn on the record feature for the camera. But I went straight into it. So you're going to hear me sounding a little bit groggy. I was drinking American coffee there, and their coffee is really hot. I got tired of waiting for it to cool off. Whereas if I'm on a royal ship, I can get a cold brew or a quadruple iced Americano, and that'll perk me up really quick, give me something cold. But I couldn't do that on the Seaside. So you're going to hear my groggy voice come out there, and you're also probably hearing it a little scratchy now as well. Let's see what you got, Chris. Did you already talk about the changes to the Crown Lounge? I did at the early part of this, and I'll link to it in the replay. But the gist of it is that, the Pinnacles look like, only a certain number of Pinnacle members are going to be able to make it into the Suite Lounge. That's what's happening on one ship right now. And the other piece is that there's one ship, the Wonder of the Seas, where Diamond members are no longer allowed into the Diamond Lounge, what used to be the Diamond Lounge. It's going to take me a while to learn the Crown Lounge. Diamond members aren't allowed in the Crown Lounge between 5 and 8 p.m., peak time in the Crown Lounge. They can use it any other time during the day they want to. They can get a free coffee, use the concierge in the morning. But they have been asked not to come in. I don't know if the computer system, this is interesting. I don't know if their computer system is smart enough to be able to say, you have access for a period of time. Because they've always just you either have access or you don't have access. So, and Royals technology, you all know, is not the best in the world. So I'll be surprised. That might just be on the concierge. And if that's on the concierge to enforce that, that's tough on them, you all, because you know that there's going to be some Diamond members who are not going to be happy, who didn't read it, and they're going to blow out the poor concierge member who's just doing their job. So I would ask, if you find yourself on a ship where, the concierge is communicating a new policy, especially as we go through what this Crown Lounge is going to be and how Royal starts changing up their system, be kind to the folks on the ship. Your loyalty ambassadors, your concierge, your suite concierge, they're just enforcing and doing their job. It is really tough on them to enforce this. They don't like enforcing these rules any more than you do. They wish everybody could come in. But that's just not the role that they're given, unfortunately. So I would not be surprised if the concierge is not standing and checking IDs at the door, which is really unfortunate. I do use the Cruise Plum, though I don't use it too often. The pricing on it's actually very accurate. So Cruise Plum, for those of you who don't know, and I've plugged them in a few videos, especially on solo cruisers, trying to find a good deal. Cruise Plum is a very advanced search engine for going on a cruise. So oftentimes, if I just want a high-level hit, I'll go to vacationstogo.com. Don't endorse them, never worked for them. And I've never actually booked through them, but I've used their search engine thousands of times. It's a wonderful search engine. So you can start on vacationstogo.com, wonderful tool. From there, if you want to really start getting into the weeds, if you're a left-brained, analytical, type A personality, you can go into Cruise Plum and you can sort and filter for all sorts of stuff, whether it's inside cabin, the exact date that the ship is leaving, a period of dates that the ship is leaving, whether it has a stockholder benefit to it or not. It has everything built into one tool, so you'll know what your final price is going to be for the cruise that you're going on to. But I am a huge fan of Cruise Plum. I should probably use it more than I actually do, but I think that it's very accurate. It works out really well. Give it a try. I should actually probably email them at some point just to say hello and learn more about their tool, because it's not a travel agent website, which I think makes it really unique. Cruise Plum is just a search engine. You don't book your cruise through them. You find your cruise that you want, and then you still go over to the cruise line to be able to book that, but it's really intuitive. Very advanced though. So if you're not good with all the filter options over on the left-hand side and you just want a quick hit, would not recommend it. But if you want to get into the nitty-gritty and the details, Cruise Plum is your place. About to swallow my water wrong. I apologize. That's the last thing you want to hear is me coughing. Any ideas if there's any accessible solo cabins? I don't think so. And the reason that I'm going to say that is accessible cabin and solo cabin, the way that it's known in the cruise industry, don't really match. They're kind of the exact opposite of each other. And what I mean by that is an accessible cabin by nature needs to be accessible. It needs to have more space in the room so that you can navigate, so that you can get around it, so that you can move without having obstacles, a larger bathroom, more space around the bed. It needs to be a bigger sized room. A solo cabin, or studio cabin as they're sometimes called, is the exact opposite of that. You're going to be sleeping in a box. It is made for one person. In some places, it even has just a twin bed in it. It doesn't even come with a queen or a king. It is a twin bed that is in that room. And I've not stayed in one yet. But the pictures that I've seen from them, it is really tough to move around. The bed is even up against the wall in some of them. And you can only access the bed from the front section or the side section. They are very, very teeny. And so that's why I say that I don't think so, VAP. I could be wrong in this. There could be some that say, hey, we're going to go above and beyond for our accessible guest. But cruise lines these days aren't really into going above and beyond for their guests. I hate to say that, but they're really focused on recovering from COVID, driving profits, driving revenue, and accessibility. Solo rooms, I don't think is top of their list. If there was one, Virgin, somebody said, and I haven't looked at this, has about 40 solo cabins. So they've got a better chance, just sheer numbers, of having one. Though they don't always, their solo cabins will oftentimes still be at 150%. Norwegian also has a lot, and I'm not as familiar with their studio cabins. Maybe somebody in the comments, if you're watching this, if you've heard of this, let me know. A good travel agent who specializes in accessible cabins might be a good fit for you as well, VAP. I don't know of one that specializes in accessible cruisings, but I mean, that'd be an awesome niche, because if you are an accessible cruiser, you do need certain accommodations to be able to really enjoy your time on the cruise ship. So Chris, nobody's getting free drinks in the Diamond Lounge or in the Crown Lounge these days. So the way that it goes, and has been for a while now, since they rolled out that voucher program, we were able to get our free drinks and get the vouchers. Then they learned or wised up that, we're not going to do that. We're just going to give you your voucher. So if you go to the Crown Lounge and you order a drink, you are using one of your vouchers from the Crown and Anchor program. You do not get that free anymore. The only difference at this point is if you are a Diamond member, you no longer get to sit in the lounge between 5 and 8 and enjoy basic food options that aren't what they used to be. So that is the only difference there. So it is Diamond Plus get to go in there to use their free vouchers now. That's the only difference. I mean, I feel like the lounges aren't what they used to be. People used to go in there, network, get to know each other. I used to love lounges, especially the old school concierge lounges where they'd have a bar that you could cuddle up to and, snuggle up to and enjoy yourself. I used to go and stay from 5 to 7, 5 to 8, and I would have such a good time meeting everybody. But the cruises I've been on recently, I don't see a lot of that happening. And maybe it's just because I'm on the weekend sailings, but I feel like the age of a lounge, or the era of lounges, might be going by the wayside. And I know I threw out a very radical idea that I wouldn't be surprised if the Suite Lounge became the Crown Lounge and they did away with the Suite Lounge and it became some other specialty restaurant, axe throwing, some revenue generator of some kind, because I just don't see them putting value behind the loyalty program these days. That is a very radical thought of mine, but I'm getting jaded in my old age, I'm finding. Alice, you're not wrong in it being a booze cruise. It is a party hardy crowd. If you are coming on the weekend sailing, chances are you have a drink package. And it is more nightlife, more energy than you're going to find on a 7-night sailing. It's funny, like when I go on a 7-night cruise, I have to remind myself to reset my expectations on how many people are going to be on the dance floor at 10 o'clock. How many people are going to be crowding into lounges. There's actually a true formal night. Weekend cruises are a really good time, especially if you're in close proximity, so you don't have to buy a flight for it. Granted, you can always come stay for the 3-day and stay for the 4-day, but a weekend sailing, as much as I call it a booze cruise, it is still a really good time. And I don't drink. Like, I'm not a boozer. I used to, but I don't do that anymore. It's just not for me. So you can still have a wonderful time and not be part of the party crowd. And you can stay up late. I mean, there will be people at the casino bar every weekend until 3 in the morning, which I think is really cool. If that's the experience that you want, you can absolutely do that. If you're on a 7-night sailing, you're going to be hard pressed to find people out past 12:30, 1 o'clock. And it starts coming down even quicker, especially if you're on an even longer sailing. But hey, give it a whirl. If nothing else, come on a group cruise with us one of these days, Alice. We'd love to have you. Chris, so this is for one specific sailing that is happening right now. I do not know, and I should have mentioned this earlier, I do not know if it is for going to be permanent going forward, if it's going to be based on the number of Diamond members like they're doing for Pinnacles and the Suites now, if it's going to be based on every ship, every sailing, we just don't know. It could be them just experimenting to see if this works and how much of an uprising it causes. I think we're going to see Royal testing the water on what they can get away with so that they don't rip the Band-Aid off too terribly quick. But this gives us an insight into what is already a possibility that can be a permanent change going forward. Right now, it is for one ship, one sailing. If more comes out of it, I'll certainly let you all know. But that's all that's happened at this point. Yeah, check out Cruise Plum. Definitely advanced search engine. I like it a lot. That's funny, Jen, you mentioned that. That's kind of how I started out. When I was living in Boston, my goal was to cruise every other month. And I would do 2 weekends in that month. I'd fly down for a weekend on Enchantment and I'd stay for a fortnight on the Empress. And I had such a good time doing that. But eventually I just went, that's not enough. I need to go more. And I think when I originally moved to Florida, I was going to try to do every other weekend was my goal. And clearly that didn't work out. So here I am going just about every weekend. Yeah, Scary. Thank you for clarifying in the comments for me. I think I will always prefer a regular room sig, but when it comes down to the money of it, do I really value it that much? I mean, especially I would say on Virgin Voyages where I'm really not in the room that much because I like the entertainment. They do more, I don't know if it's more top 40s or just more cabaret style that I really appreciate in their shows. And I find myself sitting and watching the entertainment more like I'm waiting for dinner or it's after dinner. I find myself enjoying their roundabout bar more than I do on other ships. On Royal, kind of over the piano man and the random guitarist playing in the pub. I mean, it's kind of always just the same thing. And they do the same music on Virgin, but for some reason, I'm gravitating towards what they do on Virgin. Heather, this is also another one-off. So it is on one particular cruise where they have said that, hey, Pinnacle members, there's a lot of you on here. And let me go back to the letter that this person received. So they received this letter here saying, can I turn off the comment so you can see this? Let me switch back. Here we go. saying that the suite lounge was going to allow people that are in the top piece of the pinnacle, the top percentage. And in this case, the gentleman who posted it said it was the top 30 made it into the Pinnacle Lounge. This, to just do a quick recap, and I went into this more at the beginning, it does raise his eyebrows on a couple of different things. The first is that it's kind of setting the bar for what a future higher tier could be, or a benefit that could come from a future higher tier. So they're already taking the Pinnacle group and they're now sectioning this off. They're not saying, okay, if there's more than 50, you can come in here, you can't. They're now saying, well, it depends on who you are. Like if you're in the upper part of the pinnacles, we'll let you in. So they're kind of creating another tier here, if you will. The second thing is it moved from 50 people they used to allow in to now they're only allowing 30 people in. And by the way, they're also going to start allowing people in who are not Pinnacle members. So if you are a Pinnacle member traveling with somebody, so in my case, if I'm traveling with my mom or a friend, they are now going to be allowed, if I'm one of the ones who are chosen to come into the lounge for this particular sailing at least, I would be able to bring a non-Pinnacle person in where I can't do that today. So we'll see if these things stick. Again, these are changes where I think Royal's testing out the water. They're seeing what's working, what's going to cause people to be really upset, what's not. And we'll see if this comes out on more cruises. But they're seeing what can happen and giving us some insight into what we can expect down the road. Hope that answered the question there. Sorry, I wasn't being very specific. I do want to be specific that these are not permanent changes. This is for one ship on one sailing that I think gives us insight into what could be coming. You know, I want to try it just to kind of check out the solo lounge. Though, Sig, I'm going to speak very freely here. Us cruisers, we can be a little bit different sometimes. And solo cruisers, I think we can be, I'm going to include me in this, can be even more different sometimes. And so I think that that's a stereotype, whether it's true or not in my head, that I have when it comes to solo travel. And so I don't know how I feel about the lounge, but I think that I'm willing to explore it and see what it has to offer. Especially, I don't know that I'd like for having to cut into the lounge to get into my room every time or have a lounge directly outside of my room. I got the impression that's how Norwegian had set them up. I'd rather be down the hall and be able to come into the lounge. But I don't think that I would hate it. It's inside, so it's also not giving you views of the water or anything like that. I'll do it one of these days just to test out the waters, if you will, but we'll see. MSC does match. So I've made a video on that, Jen. So if you've not matched over with MSC, make sure you're checking out that video. I matched into their highest tier diamond level. And you can do that with hotels. I think Hyatt, I know, is one of them. And, you know, it looks like Jen's saying Hilton, but you can also do that with cruise line status as well. So if you are looking at going on an MSC cruise, get your free stuff. There is no reason why, if you have status, and a lot of us do have status with someone out there, whether it's from a credit card benefit or you actually earned it, you have status, match it on MSC and get your free stuff. I may come to regret encouraging everybody to match with MSC because they may wind up cutting a lot of the benefits like we were finding Royal might be doing. But for now, their benefits are actually pretty good over there, especially if you can match into their diamond perk and get that free special restaurant. I think that's my favorite thing, right next to the macarons. So I'm not saying they're getting away with the suite lounge. What I'm saying is they're going to move everybody in the suite into the Crown Lounge, and they're going to get away with the Diamond Plus, and Pinnacle Lounge. So just to clarify that, the suite lounges, you know, they don't actually bring in a lot of traffic, but when they do, they want to feel important, and there has to be a value add for the premium that they're paid. And so I feel like the suite lounge does create that. When I book with the Royal Caribbean, I don't know that the Diamond Lounge necessarily does that. If they said Diamond Plus Pinnacles can no longer go into a lounge, but we're still going to give you your drink vouchers, I think a lot of people would not like it, but I think they go, okay, I'll still book with you. Yeah, Stephen, I would say the venues, they're definitely coming down. And maybe that's one reason why I like the setup of MSC that I talked about earlier, having all these I call them like mini Italian cafes. Like you're walking along and all of a sudden there's 4 or 5 tables that are sitting there, or there's, sections where a group of people can congregate. Because I found myself, even on a few days, I'd sit in some of these sections. Other people would come and join me. Before you know it, you just automatically started talking to people. I was in a talkative mood this cruise. So I appreciated that. But I think that a lot of things are going by the wayside, and they're not doing that as much these days. I don't actually, T-Sweet, that's a good question. And I had a video idea that I have not done on Royal Caribbean yet, where I went bar to bar and just ordered their drinks, their non-alcoholic drinks. I wouldn't say that I have a go-to. One of my go-tos, it is really tough to find on the cruise ships, which drives me crazy, is they've got a non-alcoholic wine called, actually, I don't even know how it's called. It's either pronounced free or fray. I've heard it said both ways, F-R-E. It is an alcohol removed wine. And they've got a few types on the cruise lines. The one that they have the most of is a Sauvignon? No, Chardonnay. They've got a white Chardonnay, and they've also got a sparkling wine, and they've got a Pinot Noir, I think, that they'll bring on. But I don't find that one as much. The best place to find these is going to be in vintages. If you try ordering it anywhere else, they're probably not going to know what you're talking about. And to find it, I don't want to say that I've escalated and kind of made it a big deal before, but I think that I've done that. When I know the ship has it or I know where it's at, I've kind of insisted, I hate to say that because I don't like thinking of myself that way, that people find it for me. Because it's on the ship. It's just a matter of, the crew isn't always as educated on non-alcoholic options as they should be, even the bartenders, because there's not a lot of incentive for them. So that's my favorite go-to drink, though it's tough to find. Past that, I'm a cranberry and soda kind of guy with lime in it. That's what makes it. You got to get the lime in it. But there are, I think I was in Boleros the other day, and I noticed they actually had a decent selection of non-alcoholic drinks. If you go to a bartender and say, hey, I want you just to make me a non-alcoholic drink, they are going to give you a juice suicide. And it is going to be orange juice, pineapple juice, mango juice. They're just going to mix all those sugary drinks in together. And it is thick, it is syrupy. It's just not good. Rarely have I found a bartender who can actually whip up a good non-alcoholic concoction. But I do want to go through and take one day and use my 6 vouchers to be like, just buy only some of the non-alcoholic drink options that they have. You'll also find, I should mention, for a beer, they do carry Heineken Zero is on the ship as well. So if you want to find it, you can get a Heineken Zero. It's not my favorite non-alcoholic beer, but it is one that they do carry on the ship. I wish cruise lines would prioritize these drinks, put a little bit more energy and effort behind them, because I think that there's more people like myself who are just going, I'm not really a big drinker. And there's a lot of people out there that just want to have 1 or 2 drinks, and then maybe non-alcoholics what they want to switch to. So I personally would love to see the cruise lines emphasize this, give it a spot on the menu, and educate their bartenders on mocktails. But those are my best suggestions, T-Sweet. And one of these days, I'll get around to making a true video on that. I have it not scripted necessarily, but I started exploring the options and looking at it on my last Royal Cruise. So maybe if I get feisty on this Indy cruise coming up, I'll get it done. Chris, I'm not going to say no to this. And I understand where you're coming from on to get to Pinnacle. You've paid a ton of money over the years to make it there. You've probably spent significant years, if not decades, to make it to Pinnacle. The problem that the corporation has at this point is we're not driving the revenue the way that new cruisers getting the suites are driving that revenue. The new cruisers are paying a premium more than they ever have paid, and they are not loyal. They are paying good money. When I go on a cruise, if that cruise is sold out, I cost Royal Caribbean money to be there because I'm not buying the drink package. I'm not buying the Wi-Fi. I'm not spending anything except automatic gratuities and paying their employees for them. That is the only thing that I am buying. The new cruisers come on, they're shopping, they're buying the drink package, you're getting the Wi-Fi. They make so much more money on that population. That is who they are choosing to focus on these days. whether it's right or wrong, whether we appreciate that. I know I don't necessarily appreciate it, but that is the stance that they are choosing to take. And I think that's one reason why I'm more comfortable making decisions now for myself to go to the cruise line that's going to best fit my needs, fit my budget, and have the best itinerary without blindly saying, yeah, I know that I've already sunk good money into Royal Caribbean. I know that I've done that, but I don't have to do that going forward. I've got options on my end. And if cruise lines, and Royal Caribbean is not unique in this, is going to focus on their bottom line, their shareholders, I'm going to focus on me and what's best for me. That may be Royal Caribbean for a few things. I'm confident it will be. I've got several of them booked. Or it could be some other cruise lines. But I don't think that, unfortunately, what we did in the past is what the corporation and the executives these days care about. I mean, it's sad to say, you would think that they would. Number one, the CEO's changed. We don't have the same guy anymore. You've got the CFO who's promoted to the CEO, who's going to be even more analytical, even more into the numbers. And I just don't think that loyalty is going to get us that far anymore. I hate to say that. I hate to be the pessimistic person about this. I just don't think that that's the world that we live in right now. Miami is a great vacation home. I was originally going to be a snowbird. Funny story. When I moved down, Jen, and I kept my place in Boston. And when I saw what I could rent my place in Boston for, I was like, wait, that's how many cruises a month? So I just stayed down here. I never was a snowbird. That was always my intention. And it just did not work out like that. Hilton is on the match list with MSC. So if you've got status with Hilton, many of you will have a Hilton card, a Marriott Bonvoy card. Is it Bonvoy? Yeah, Bonvoy card. If you have status, send it over to them. Doesn't mean you actually had to earn it. Even if you've paid for status on another one, if they accept it, get your free stuff. Hey, happily ever yaddy. T-Sweet, glad to help out. I will not be going. Icon's always a popular topic for me. I will not be on the Icon of the Seas. That cruise ship interests me none in the slightest, not at all. I have no desire, no want to go on the Icon of the Seas, especially if that means that I've got to pay a super premium to be there. I'd rather go on 5 weekend sailings for the same price than go on one Icon of the Seas sailing. Look, if she ever comes down in price 2 to 3 years down the road, I might check it off for, just say that I've been there. I do like to think that one day I will go on all Royal Caribbean ships. So I'll check the box. I mean, I don't mind going there one time, but I'm not going to go on a ship that I don't think that I will enjoy as much as a smaller ship and pay a premium for that experience. That is just not going to be me. But there's a lot of people, especially in this chat, who will be going on the Icon of the Seas, and they're going to have a blast. And I'm super excited to hear them and hear their stories. If that is your cruising style, I want you to go, enjoy, and have a blast. It's just not mine. MSC has a casino program. I think that's what you're saying. Wait, MSC also Voyager matches. Is that the name of the casino program there, Patches? I didn't think MSC had a casino program, but I could have just missed that. You should. I have an entire spreadsheet, Happily Ever Yaddy, that has. It's called on the bottom of the tab. It's called Payment Schedule, where I list out all of the sailing dates, the due dates. It's sorted by due date, the ship, and how much I'm going to have to pay, so that I make sure that I am saving up enough money to get to that point. I actually have not heard the Lemon Post bar. I know that they were bringing out a new bar. They've got the food truck that they're going to have outside. But if there's a bar that specializes in mocktails, I mean, that may have my name on it, especially if they're good mocktails. That I would probably really appreciate if they did that. But again, like now you're going to just one bar. Like they're going to have all the people who don't drink hanging out at one bar. And I mean, hopefully they'll cross-train their bartenders, but I don't always find that's the case on big ships. Like people in, Central Park 130 or the Trellis bar is not going to know what they're making down on the casino bar. And so that just always annoys me because I feel like I should be able to get a drink or the same cocktail in every bar, and they don't do that. So it'll be a step in the right direction, but I would love to not feel like they're regulating us non-drinkers to just one bar. But I appreciate the effort. Chris, thank you. I always appreciate the super chats and the super stickers. As much as I love coming on here and chatting with you all, it's always nice to see the appreciation come through. So greatly appreciated, Chris. Yeah, free is really difficult to find. Vintages is the best spot you can go to. Guinness has a new one. I'll be curious if they start having it because Guinness is already in their line, but Guinness did come out one. I would give Guinness Zero a try. If they had a non-alcoholic beer, I'd give it a try. The best ones I've had, though, were in Europe. When I went over to Barcelona, I don't even remember the name of it anymore, had some amazing non-alcoholic beers. They were very good. Adam, we can always have like a flight attendant's crash pad, if you will, like get a room, put 4 of us in it, and nobody ever goes in there except to sleep. Hopefully, if you're on the inaugural Happy Ever Yachty, I will tell you, don't set your hopes very high for going live or uploading a video because you're going to have thousands of vloggers there covering it. You're going to meet a lot of really cool people, which is the great part to it, but they're going to be hogging all the Wi-Fi and the bandwidth. It's really tough. The Wonder of the Seas had this issue when she came out. Like you could not get videos out on that ship at all. And I imagine it's going to be the same for this one, especially if they continue to throttle the internet on the cruise ships. Let us know how it is, Scary. Let's see what you said here about the casino on MSC. If you have casino status on land, MSC will also match it to their Voyager program. Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't think that I knew. No, I did know their loyalty program was called Voyager. I just went into it, and I've been on 4 sailings with them now. But you're right. I was missing that. If you have casino status with somebody, whether it's MGM or what's Caesars, I don't even know the big ones, you can status match into the Voyager Club with MSC. Got it. Sorry, I was being a little dense on that, Patches, but that makes sense now. Yeah, those are the things. It's not as good as it used to be. They used to have, I think they had this in both like lamb chops style is where the bar was kind of set. And over the years, it's kind of come down from that a little bit, Heather. But, it will be missed. I think, I don't want to say you'll be one of the few folks. I don't think a lot of people would miss the food. What most people would miss, at least I would miss, is the camaraderie and meeting those folks. The food, especially since the quality of it's gone down in the suite, I'm a take it or leave it kind of person. Like if I'm starving, if I've just like did a late workout at the gym and I went in there, I'll see if I can eat something, especially if they have if they have chicken or shrimp, I'll try to do some of that, but it's not my favorite thing on the ship anymore. All right, so it looks like I made it to 2 hours of talking tonight, which is always fun. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a good evening because I still need to unpack. I didn't get home till 5 o'clock, so glad to come and chat with you all. Scary, thank you for the last minute sticker here or super chat. That is a great way for us to end the call. But thank you all. It means a lot to me that you wanted to come and hang out with me on your Sunday afternoon. I love coming and talking with you all, making these videos, and it is great to have you part of this weekend cruiser community that we have going on here. So thank you, and hope you all have a great night, and that I'll see you on a weekend cruise soon.